Hi everyone, this is Phil Travis, and this week's announcement is for American History Part 1. This week we will be looking at the United States following the War of 1812. Particularly, we'll be considering the American government and the American economy as well as American foreign policy in the aftermath of that conflict. And in this respect, a major focus in terms of the individual we'll be examining for this week in class will be John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, the son of John Adams, the 2nd President of the United States, and a very significant figure in charting the future of American foreign policy and also other aspects of American governmental policy in the future, beginning in the 1820s while he is president. So this week I want you to read from our Eric Foner textbook. Please read Chapter 9. Remember, we engage in the discussion forum this week. It's the only major assignment we have is the discussion forum this week. We have a test also next week, so not this week. Our test is next week. So this week there's no quiz, there's no paper. Just make sure you're engaged in the discussion forum for the week. We're reading again from our Foner textbook, Chapter 9, and I also have two primary source documents that I want each of you to look at and discuss in the discussion forum for this week. These two primary sources come from, really from John Quincy Adams. One is the Monroe Doctrine, which is associated with James Monroe, but it's really most credited to Secretary of State at the time, John Quincy Adams, as he was the one who really composed the document. And of course, the Monroe Doctrine really shaped American relations with this hemisphere for the next century, beyond even. So we'll be looking at the Monroe Doctrine, an item composed by John Quincy Adams as Secretary of State, but of course delivered and attributed to President James Monroe. We also will be examining a primary source document from John Quincy Adams in which John Quincy Adams proposes his ideas about the responsibilities and powers of the American government. And I'm hoping that we can discuss that and engage in some conversation about what we believe the role and responsibility of the American government should be. Do we think Quincy Adams is correct or not? We'll talk about that in the discussion this week. So looking forward to having a really fun discussion this week. So no test this week, test is next week, no paper this week, just the discussion forum, no quiz. So let's just read these documents and have a really good, robust discussion forum conversation. Remember to make that first post or reply by Thursday. Make sure you have one post, 2 replies over 2 separate days to fulfill the full credits for the discussion forum. So just make sure you start on Thursday, even if it's a short reply. Start on Thursday and make sure your activity occurs over 2 separate days with a total of 1 post and 2 replies, and you get full credit for the discussion forum. As long as your replies and everything are substantial. I mean, if you just say, that was great, then you might lose some points for that because that's not a very substantial post. But anyway, we're well into the course, so everybody should pretty much be clear on that. Here's the factoids. Remember, email me the factoid, a brief summary of the factoid. Email that to me no later than Wednesday by midnight and get that bonus point added to a test at the end of the term. All these factoids add up, and that can really help your grade at the end of the term because it'll really help a test score. And those tests are worth a pretty decent chunk of their grade each, and it'll really be able to pull your score up a little bit at the end of the term if you need that. So here's the factoid. Both of these factoids relate to John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, the Secretary of State of James Monroe. And the factoids are kind of interesting. John Quincy Adams, it's kind of this short though. John Quincy Adams is the first known president to be photographed. He was photographed in 1843, and it's the earliest known photograph of John Quincy Adams. Of course, he was not president at that time. He was president in the 1820s. But the earliest known photograph of a president is that of John Quincy Adams, which dates back to probably 1843. The second factoid connected to that is John Quincy Adams is the first president to go on, after his term as president, to go on and serve in the House of Representatives. And he was a highly significant advocate in the House of Representatives. He very much promoted his ideas about justice and fairness on the part of the United States government. And he was, in many respects, he was a career member of the House of Representatives. And in many respects, you might argue that his time in the House of Representatives may have been as significant, if not more significant, than his time as president. So John Quincy Adams, the first known president photograph after his presidency, of course, but the first known photograph of a president is of John Quincy Adams, some 20 years after he was president, from 1843. And John Quincy Adams is the first president to ever serve in the U.S. Congress after his term as president was up. And interestingly, there's, I believe the total to ever do that, I think it's three. I think it's three presidents who have ever served in either the Senate or the Congress after their presidential term, but John Quincy Adams was the first. Email me the factoid no later than Wednesday at midnight. Let's have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the discussion forum.